Deep in the rainforest of the Andes, we can find a plant with one of the most profound and inexplicable significance to the human tale that it might as well been plucked from the pages of a Victorian Gothic horror tale. This plant, the coca, is not merely a botanical specimen, but probably the key to the most controversial substance in the world. This is the coca plant, more specifically Erythroxylum coca. This shrub contains within its leaves the alkaloid cocaine, and in its natural state is a far cry from the infamous substance that it will later become, because it was seen as a gift from the gods. And the act of chewing coca, akushiko, is not just a quaint little habit from the Andean people, but rather a profound ritual that helps with fatigue and the high altitude sickness that you tend to feel at that height. And it was the Inca Empire that took this reverence to a whole new level. The coca leaf was reserved exclusively to the celestial elite, while the common people didn't have a chance to try it. But when the empire started to decline, the common people got their hands around it, and the sacred leaves began their descent from high altitude exclusivity to everyday use. Then came the European conquerors, and despite their knack for turning everything they touch into a mess, they managed to see the coca leaf's potential. They taxed the hell out of it and let the indigenous people use the plant. But despite their best efforts, the plant didn't catch with Europeans the way that tobacco did. Long oceanic voyages rendered their leaves less effective, so coca didn't break through in the European market. Well, until this guy entered the 19th century, and Paolo Montegassa, an Italian physician practicing medicine in Paraguay and Argentina, stumbled upon coca and decided it was the greatest thing since the sliced bread. Montegassa's prose about coca reads like a love letter by someone that had, well, perhaps too many cups of coffee.
I sneer at the poor mortals condemned to live in this valley of tears, while I, carried on the wings of 2 leaves of coca, went flying through the space of 77,438 words, each more splendid than the one before. An hour later, I was sufficiently calm to write these words in a steady hand. God is all unjust because He made man capable of sustaining the effects of coca all life long. I would rather have a lifespan of 10 years with coca than one of 2 millions and millions of millions and millions of centuries without coca.
Man, he was really hooked on that shit. The next big thing in the history of this plant was the alchemical mishmash of coca and wine, who gave birth to COCA1NE, an elixir that was essentially like an ancient Red Bull. Vin Mariani, a creation of Angelo Mariani, was full of cocaine and received glowing endorsement from everyone who was anyone, including Pope Leo XVIII, who gave it the Vatican Gold Medal. John Pemberton, inspired by the books of Vin Mariani, created his own version,
Pemberton French coca wine.
But with prohibition on the horizon, he removed the alcohol and replaced it with sugar, thus creating Coca-Cola. The name is just a nostalgic nod to its illicit origin, because Coca-Cola no longer has cocaine, but the name remains. The installation of cocaine by Albert Niemann in 1851 marked a new era, one where cocaine was all the rage. Embraced by the medical community and the public alike, it was hailed as a medical cure, a stimulant of choice, and a celebrity drug. But why? Why everyone loves cocaine? Well, the answer is very simple. From a pharmacological point of view, cocaine is a CNS stimulant. That means that it stimulates the fuck out of your central nervous system. When consumed, cocaine inhibits the reuptake of dopamine, norepinephrine and serotonin, leading to an accumulation of all these chemicals in the brain. This results in a heightened alertness, euphoria and sense of increased security, energy and confidence. Now let's talk about probably the most famous cocaine addict of all times. Enter Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, an unabashed cocaine enthusiast. Freud's 1884 treatise Über Coca, or On Coca in English, reads like a fanboy guide to the drug, praising it as a cure for all the illness of the human condition. Freud himself was so enamored that he used it regularly, perhaps envisioning it as a gateway to euphoria and enlightenment. But the early 20th century brought a dramatic shift as a societal fears and moral panic escalated. cocaine reputation went from a medical drug to a dangerous vice. And then the Harrison Narcotics Act of 1914 and the international controls from the International Opium Convention set the stage for a crackdown on cocaine, fueled by a cocktail of health concerns, racial anxieties, and moral outrage. This panic wasn't completely unfounded. The reality is that cocaine has a lot of risk. Here are some of them. Users might experience increasing heart rate, elevated blood pressure, and vasoconstriction, which can lead to cardiovascular complications, and in addition, chronic use can result in severe neurological and physiological issues, including anxiety, paranoia, and cognitive deficits, and of course, addiction. And that's when this crap started to destroy millions of lives. Then came the 1970s, and with them the golden age of cocaine as a symbol of opulence in the US. The South American cartels, mostly the Medellin and Cali cartels in Colombia, seized the opportunity to transform cocaine into its main commodity. And then Nixon declared the war on drugs. Among massive hysteria, the war on drugs intended to cut the supply of drugs in the US, but this only fed to the insatiable demand of cocaine, because nothing says effective policy like a booming black market based entirely on violence, repression, death, and creating a failed state in Latin America in the process. In this grotesque spectacle of cultural adoration and criminality, cocaine still has to this day almost the exact same place that it had on the Inca Empire. A drug reserved only to the elite, the same elite that destroys everyone who used the substance. A blatant hypocrisy that fuels violence and destruction around the world, while ruining millions of lives in the process. And that's how this white powder conquered the world.